Hey guys, so here is our part 3 of the 3.1 notes. Now what we're going to do is use the information you have learned to solve our equations here. Okay, real nth roots equations. Okay, so it says let n be an integer greater than 1 and let a be a real number. So if n is odd, and we're going to be talking about, well, what type and how many solutions are we going to have. So if n is odd, then that means a has one real nth root. But I guess in this case it's going to be x. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to just keep a. So a has one real nth root. So basically what that just means is that there's just going to be one solution. And of course, because if our root is odd, we can have a negative or positive. Now, let's say if n is even and our a value is greater than 0, like the square root of 4, okay? So if we have like the square root of 4, that means we're going to have two real solutions. Okay, or another way of saying nth roots. Okay, so we'll have two real solutions. Now let's say if n is even and a equals 0. Of course, if you take the square root, fourth root, sixth root, eighth root of 0, you're just going to have one real solution, or just one solution. Now let's say if our root is even and a is less than 0, what happens? Well, this is like we're taking the square root of -4. This is where we get our imaginary numbers. However, we are going to say we actually get no real nth roots. So no real solutions. Okay. So now let's go ahead and use this information to solve the following equations. Okay, so remember, you are always trying to, so here we are going to solve. You can use a calculator, so make sure you have that out. And we're going to round to the nearest hundredth, which is 2 decimal places. So just kind of like when we did with our quadratics unit and always solving, always get your base isolated. Okay, so isolate your base. So whatever has the exponent, that is what we call the base. So on A, we have 4x to the 5th equals 128. X to the 5th is our base. So we need to get that isolated. In order to do so, I need to divide both sides by 4. So I get x to the 5th equals, and of course just plug this into your calculator, we get 32. Now, what we want to do is the opposite. We want to get rid of that exponent. Just like when we did squares, right? If we had a to the 2nd power, we square rooted it. If it was to the 3rd power, we cube root. So here, this is what we call a 5th root. Okay? So we get x equals, and of course you can plug this into your calculator, but remember we already did this, right? So the 5th root of 32, so remember, if you want to try this, you do 5, and then you're going to go to math, and then it's going to be number 5, you can press that, of 32, and you can press enter. We get 2. Okay. You're going to see that number quite a bit, taking the 5th root of 32. And remember, because our root is odd, we only have one solution. Okay, I would like you guys to go ahead and pause the video and try part B. Okay, let's see what you got. So notice that x cubed, that is our base. So we need to isolate it. In order to do so, we need to move that 1/4. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4 to do so. So now I get x to the cube equals 4 times 2, which is 8. Now, to undo the cube, we cube root, okay? Now, let's talk about this. Is our root odd or even here? It is an odd root, so how many solutions are we going to get? That means one solution, okay? So always ask yourself, what is the root? Is it even or odd? Okay, so you can plug this into your calculator. Here we do have the cube root button, so you can just go to math, and it's going to be number 4 here, and you just put 8, and we get 2 as well, okay? Another way of doing this, if you want to, you can still do the 3, and then go to math, and then with the x. It'll still be the same thing. Okay, now let's go ahead and try part C. So notice what our base is. The x minus 3 is in parentheses. That is our entire base. So this needs to be isolated. So anything that is before or after it, you have to move it over to the other side. In this case, we don't have anything else, so we're going to go ahead and fourth root this here. Okay, I'm going to rewrite this. So I have room to fourth root. So I'm going to fourth root. Okay. So now, notice that we have a fourth root. That is an even root, because of course 4 is an even number. So because we have an even root, we're going to have 2 solutions. So let's plug this into our calculator. So I'm going to do 4 math, and then it's going to be number 5, and then put 21. So notice 21 is not a perfect fourth, so that means we're going to have decimals. And it said we're going to round to the hundredths, which is 2 decimal places. It's going to be 2.14. Now, because we have to have 2 solutions, what is that special symbol we need to use? It is the plus minus sign. Remember we used it when we did square roots? A square root is an even root. So here, x equals, let me go back to remember 2.14, okay? And actually, whoops, forgot x minus 3, we still have that part. So we have x minus 3 equals plus minus 2.14, okay? So don't forget, anytime you take the even root, you have to have the plus minus to represent 2 solutions. Now, we are not done because we still need to move that 3 over. We're going to add 3. Now be careful, just like when we did with our square roots. This doesn't mean plus or minus 5.14. That is incorrect math. What you have to do is it's going to be x equals positive 2.14 and add it with 3. And it's going to represent negative 2.14 and add it with 3. Okay, so you're going to have 2 different solutions here. Now one of them is going to be positive 5.14. But the other one is going to be 0.86. So be careful when you're simplifying there, okay? Okay, what I would like you to do is go ahead, pause the video, and try part D for me, please. Okay, let's see what you got here. So notice what our base is. It is the x plus 5. Notice it is already isolated because we don't need to move anything that is behind or before it. So we're going to go ahead and take the fourth root of it. Okay. And notice that our root is even. So that means we're going to have 2 solutions. So we get x plus 5 equals, let's take the fourth root of 16, plug that into our calculator. We go 4, math, and then it's going to be number 5, and we put 16. So 16 is a perfect fourth since we get a nice number, which is 2. Don't forget, because we're going to have 2 solutions, you need to put that plus minus, and you need to do it automatically. Don't do it at the end when you get your 2 solutions. You got to do it once you take the even root of that number. Now I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Now remember, this is not saying plus or minus 7. This is saying we have positive 2 minus 5, and then negative 2 minus 5. So we get negative 3 and negative 7 as our solutions. Okay, if you have any questions, make sure you contact me, and make sure you work on the homework assignment. I'll see you guys later.